Tomorrow is the feast day of Pope St. Leo the Great, but it's actually not a feast day.
Not universally.
A feast day is different from a solemnity. How is a feast day different, Father?
So feast days would be the second highest category of celebrations in the church. They are not as elaborate. They don't have a first Vespers, but they're still great celebrations. So they're not as important, but they're still important. Like, it might not be your birthday, but maybe it's your half birthday, right? You can still do something.
First Vespers, a solemnity, gets 2 evening prayers. Vespers is evening prayer of the Liturgy of the Hours, and the church will start Sunday on Saturday evening, right? Because every Sunday is a solemnity. But a feast day, you're saying, only gets 1 Vespers.
This is true.
What happens that feast day morning? Let's say that we're doing Matins or the Office of Readings, which is another one of the offices in the Liturgy of the Hours. What would be different on a feast day?
From a solemnity, almost nothing. Everything would basically be the same, except for different parts of Mass. So in the Liturgy of the Hours, at Matins or Office of Readings, you would get a Te Deum. You would have proper psalms, proper readings. At morning prayer, you would do the standard Sunday week 1, which is morning prayer, psalms, and the canticle from Daniel. But at Mass, you would typically only have 1 reading, except if it's a feast that celebrates an event in the life of Christ. And you would typically not have the Creed unless it occurred on a Sunday.
Tomorrow is the feast of Pope St. Leo. Today is the feast day of the St. John Lateran Basilica in Rome, where we celebrate that in 325 AD, Christianity is now legal. We have our first major basilica. This is one of the few exceptions to that rule that Father mentioned, where you normally have 1 reading on a feast day, whereas on a solemnity you have 2, a first and second reading, Old and New Testament, just like every Sunday. But John Lateran Basilica is actually one of the few feast days in which there are 2 readings, an Old Testament reading with the Vidi Aquam, with the I saw water flowing from the temple, and then the New Testament reading about us being living stones incorporated into the body of Christ.
And it is funny that we celebrate dedications of churches quite elaborately, quite extravagantly. We show that there's something beautiful about our connection with salvation history and the salvation we receive through our acts of worship in a particular church,
yes,
and through our connection with a particular church. So the feast of the dedication of the Cathedral of St. John, the Basilica of St. John on the Lateran Hill, or so St. John Lateran is not a man,
yes,
but refers to a church.
Indeed.
But it is our mother church. It is the Cathedral Church of Rome, and so we have a shared connection with it, so we celebrate it with great honor.
That leads us to 2 assignments for you. Earlier, Father said
We're giving homework now.
Yes.
On Chant and Rant.
The first is the Te Deum. Father mentioned that just like on solemnities, we sing the Te Deum on feast days in the Office of Readings, also called Matins. So look up the Te Deum and listen to it and be blown away by how epic the Te Deum chant is. One of the things I look forward to whenever there's a feast day or solemnity or Sunday is I love to sing the Te Deum with my wife. It's honestly like a treat because it's one of the most beautiful, epic chants praising the Lord that the church has. So that's assignment number 1. Assignment number 2 is, Father mentioned that on the feast of the dedication of your church, when your church was established, that becomes a feast day locally, which is true. I want you to look up, you might have to call your parish to find out, look up and see when your parish was established. What is your parish's dedication of a church feast day when it was consecrated as holy ground and set apart for worship for the faithful? That would be a really interesting thing to look up. I actually don't know when St. Columbkills is.
I have it written down. I know it's, I have it on my calendar. It's in July. I don't remember exactly when, but...
So it's homework assignment for all of us, including Father.
Yes,
yes.
Yes.
We all need to look up when the dedication of our church occurs.
St. Columbkill is the local parish here in Alston, Brighton, which is a neighborhood of Boston.
Beautiful stained glass. A feast day, practically for lay people, doesn't mean much. You don't have to go to Mass. If you happen to go to daily Mass, you'd sing the Gloria. That's another liturgical thing that...
So Mass gets a little longer in the morning.
Yes, yeah. Which oftentimes, because I cantored, I actually cantored today, and I can see people immediately at the beginning of Mass when you say, today is the feast of the dedication of the John Lateran Basilica, immediately people start looking at their watches like, oh my gosh, am I going to be able to get back to work with the liturgy today? And I want everybody to know, for the record, that we did a Mass in downtown Boston. We had an entrance Gregorian antiphon from the Graduale Romanum. We had the communion antiphon from the Graduale Simplex. We sung the Kyrie, the Gloria, the Sanctus, and the Agnus Dei, and the entire Mass. And we sang the Responsorial Psalm, the entire Mass, with an exposition at the end of the Blessed Sacrament, because adoration happens right afterwards, was under 30 minutes. So if anybody ever says, we can't have singing, we got to do a quick low Mass, they're wrong. You can absolutely do a full sung Mass if you are being attentive to the text, because that's actually one of the beautiful things about antiphons, and that's where, again, many times back to feast days, will have proper antiphons instead of just referring to commons. Almost all memorials, which we're going to get to in the next video, just have commons for their music, but feast days often will have propers, at least one or two.
Propers are?
Propers are the specific antiphons that are assigned. Antiphons are bits of music that the church uses in various liturgical actions.
Keep going one step back.
It's terrible.
Yeah,
it's terrible.
Yeah.
Anyway, long story short, the antiphons, assignment 3 is to look up antiphons. Antiphons are nice in Mass as opposed to hymns, because with an antiphon, it can be as short or as long as you want it. The antiphon itself might only take 30 seconds, whereas once you do a hymn, you're committing yourself to at least a minute per verse, and it doesn't gel as well with a daily Mass. But antiphons are great because you can add as many verses as you need to of the Psalms, and I know Father's looking at me like I'm crazy for going this in depth. We'll do a later video on antiphon. We'll do a later video on antiphons as well.
So many things to go over.
The point is we had a 30-minute Mass, which is awesome, on a feast day. We sang the Gloria, and everyone was happy.
Paul did Mass in under 30 minutes today.
Everyone was happy.
I didn't get to celebrate the Feast of St. John Lateran in a Mass today. I had a funeral.
You didn't say Mass?
Oh, I said Mass, but it was a funeral. So it was...
Oh, that's so sad.
I know, so we didn't have the readings.
That's so sad. Did we miss anything?
Well, at the beginning, we started with the question about St. Leo the Great.
Oh, yes.
It's not a feast.
It's a memorial, which we're going to get to in the next video.
So we generically call things feasts.
Yes.
Even solemnities, we generically call it, the Feast of the Nativity, Christmas, which is a solemnity. But really, feasts are a middle category between memorials and solemnities that honor sort of big events in the life of Christ, so like the presentation in the temple or the transfiguration, or they honor important saints, so the patron saint of your diocese. The apostles have feast days rather than just memorials.
Except for Peter and Paul, they have a solemnity.
They have a solemnity. This is correct. But they also both have a feast as well, because there's the feast of the chair of St. Peter and the feast of the conversion of St. Paul.
This is the most detailed video we could possibly release, and I love it. I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Was that in order, by the way? You said there's other feasts like Candlemas, the presentation of the temple, and Transfiguration. Is that your 1, 2 in power ranking of feasts?
No, that's not it.
Okay, what's your favorite feast?
What's my favorite feast? The Transfiguration is my favorite feast, yes. Because it also a birthday, so I always get very excited.
Yes, of course.
I consider it like the first Vespers of my birthday.
Ever since I moved to Boston, Candlemas is definitely my favorite feast, because in the heart of winter, February, what is it, 4th, 3rd?
Second.
Oh.
Right?
I think it is 2nd, you're right.
I'm pretty sure.
In the beginning of February.
It's in our calendars. We don't have to,
It really is the bleak midwinter feast day, because in the heart of winter, you get to light candles, and in the last few years here in Boston, we do processions at night. For my personal discipline, I don't ever work on solemnities. I refuse to work on solemnities as best as I can. That's a rule in our family. But on feast days, I like to take half days. I like to work half the day. I think that's a good principle. If you want to celebrate Paul Rose's liturgical idea of living out the liturgical calendar, and you want to configure your life around the liturgical calendar, I would recommend half days on feast days, maybe like an afternoon picnic with your kids or something to show them that there's something worth celebrating.
Have a nicer dinner, like what you're trying to do tonight on the feast of the dedication of the Basilica of St. John Lateran.
Father, why are we having... so we're having a dinner party tonight, which we got to get to. We got to start chopping vegetables. Yeah. So I encourage you guys to look up your calendar, chop it up, and see how you can plan for the next feast, which is... The next feast is the Feast of St. Andrew. To celebrate this Feast of St. Andrew, we invite you...
On November 30th.
Yes. We invite you to listen to Sing the Hours, to do some more engagement with liturgy, to try to listen to or sing the Te Deum, and maybe think about how, like Andrew, being a fisherman, you can eat some fish. That's a terrible idea.
Or he's also the patron saint of golf. You can't golf up here at the end of November, but maybe if you're down south, maybe honor the great patron saint of golf.
Is that because he was clubbed to death?
No, he was crucified on the X cross.
Great.
St. Jude was clubbed to death, but he's just associated with the town of St. Andrews in Scotland, where golfing was born.
Uh-huh. I think that St. Jude should also be a patron saint of golf because
of the clubs.
I thought that the
Or
world was
hopeless
being
causes.
clever, but I realized that I was just being clever. Yeah, hopeless
yeah.
causes like me getting good at golf, right, Father? This is good. This sort of banter is no help to anybody. We
Yeah.
invite you to follow
feast.
follow us on Chants and Rants, to listen to Sing the Hours, to engage more with the liturgical year. And thank you for joining myself, Paul Rose, and Father Nathaniel Sanders.
Chant over, rant over. Have a nice day.
Now we feast.